Hello guys, I've had a blast leveling here in Warcraft Reborn. For some people leveling can be a little bit of a grind, especially if you played this for so many years that you have already leveled more than 20 characters across many servers. For others like me, it can be a little bit more of a casual experience exploring, fighting these rare elite mobs and just doing your own challenges. There are many challenge modes. However, my first tip and recommendation will be to finish your leveling journey after level 55 at least, in one of the endgame leveling zones that has a faction reputation. The main ones being Argent Dawn, Cenarion Hold or Timbermaw Hold. There are lots of players questing here, so you have lots of people to group up with. Looking now back at this footage, it makes me remind the bittersweetness of the leveling experience, since it has been at least a couple of weeks since I've hit max level. But I've been a bit of a casual player because I've been just so busy in real life, and yet I was able to reach max level relatively quickly. And here I finally hit level 60, but I can always still re-explore the world through Prestige and some other challenge modes. Because I really enjoyed the leveling process here, it was insanely smooth. My average item level is only 52 yet, so I need to get this item level up, so when I'm going to open up the caches, I get better items out of them. And I'm also clearing up my quest log out of old quests, getting some extra gold. Some of my friends from the guild needed a tank for Shallow Man's normal run, and I thought it would be a good idea to check out this dungeon before doing it in heroic mode difficulty. I was still in my leveling gear, I hadn't changed anything, I was a fresh 60, but I thought I could get any item level that would be a lot higher than my current items on this dungeon, because it's an endgame dungeon. And I finally got lucky on the last boss of this dungeon, Helm of Valor dropped. I ended up using it for a while until I replaced it with some heroic dungeon loot. So finally, after hitting level 60, there are a few things that we need to check out. We do get 2 items in the mailbox. There are tons of new Path of Ascension quests from the tutorial quests that teach you about all the endgame systems and all the stuff you can do at max level. I also had a portable callboard on the mail for myself. This is going to be very useful later on. I ended up having to train lots of abilities because I just reached max level and there were lots of new ranks for these abilities. And these were my stats as a max level character fresh out of the gate. Later on I want to make a video about the leveling spec that I was using, the Mystic Enchants and the talent points. And if there are any changes about that or about the gear and stats priorities to start doing heroic dungeons. I had this entire portable personal bank page almost full of Callboard Caches. So right now I have a total of 45 Callboard Caches to open from doing the daily quests, dungeon diving and all the Callboard quests from the professions as well. I also have plenty of Adventurer Caches. I have 118 of the uncommon ones, 36 of the rare ones and 77 bags of dungeon spoils. The order in which I recommend to open these is start by the Adventurer Caches, start by the lower rarity caches, then I open most of the dungeon spoils, but because these are realm bound you can save some for an alt, and open Callboard Caches last and always try to bump up your item level. I had to put all my potions and consumables in a bank bag to have enough room in my inventory to open all this stuff up, and also to have enough room to save some pieces of gear with the variations of stats that I might need for specific occasions. The portable personal bank is very useful because you get a lot of random stuff from the Adventurer Caches, and its price has been quite cheap on the auction house right now. From these Adventurer Caches you get lots of professional materials, you get lots of random consumables, you get also green uncommon items and also blue rare items. You will also have a chance to get embossed mystic scrolls, and usually I think these Adventurer Caches scale with your character level. It was very satisfying to have so many Mystic Enchant scrolls. Finally I'm getting a lot of Mystic Enchants. I was also checking out the Worldforged item upgrades to understand the itemization. Questing here feels very rewarding and it's very satisfying to do this sort of unboxing of this huge amount of lootable caches. If you plan on making alts, the embossed mystic scrolls can open up lots of possibilities for mystic enchants that might be hard to find as well. Of course, these have a higher chance of giving you a mystic enchant for your own class when you are opening them, and right now there are many things that I am missing just because I didn't find them or I didn't get them in the reforging. Right now I can just speed up the footage, it's just the unboxing spam, and these are not the most relevant items, but later on this will be very interesting with the Callboard Caches. Being next to a vendor in Stormwind is very helpful, or having an alt ready so that you can send items to your alt in case you run out of storage is also very useful. And now for the blue Adventurer Caches, the rare quality ones. These are usually quite a little bit better and you get some better, nicer items. These also have a much higher chance to give you an Embossed Mystic Scroll and even some blue dungeon loot. In this case I was able to get the Leg Guards of Courage from the tier set. And I also ended up opening most of my dungeon spoils. I think I saved 20 of them just in case I make another alt when it reaches level 60. I can have these dungeon spoils help me gear it up. Here I got a really nice shield, and I think this was the best shield that I used before getting an epic one. The blue rare quality dungeon spoils will always give you dungeon loot from the normal dungeons, and if you are at a high item level and maximum level you get from the endgame level dungeons. And after I was done with the dungeon spoil loot, I ended up finishing up on my Mystic Enchant scrolls. You always have the choice to open all these bags at a lower level so you get all these scrolls and you get the Mystic Enchants that can help your abilities earlier on in the game, but then you also get weaker loot and weaker items out of the bags. It's up to you to do the choice. So now for the Callboard Caches, they scale up with your item level, so you want to have the best and highest item level possible. I've even created a set called Item Level, where I will choose items to equip regardless of their stats. I will just focus on their highest item level possible, and I can even be a warrior wearing cloth items as long as that gives me the highest item level temporarily just to open up these caches. I'm not sure if it's above item level 54 or item level 58, but after a certain threshold you only get heroic dungeon loot from these Callboard Caches. Another neat thing to keep in mind is that these Callboard Caches will scale up with the level of the content that is available here on Ascension, so when the first raids release, these Callboard Caches will be also able to give you items from those raids, if everything works just like in the PTR. And also in the PTR the Callboard levels will scale up, so eventually you will need more points from the Callboard quests to get a single cache. But your Callboard Caches will start leveling up, and so you will get caches from Zul'Gurub, caches from Molten Core, and then caches from Blackwing Lair, etc. But you get the point, the Callboard Caches will eventually scale up depending on the content being released on the server. I think when Mythic Dungeons are released we can also get Mythic Dungeon gear from these Callboard Caches. Some people might look at so many epic quality items and think these are the welfare epics from Wrath of the Lich King, or that the gear up is quite easy to do, but it's quite the opposite. There is just so much new gear in the game that to actually farm the tier sets and actually get specific items if you want them can be very difficult. I've opened already 3 times the amount of the Callboard Caches that you see here, and most of the stuff, at least 90% of the items that have dropped from those, were not very useful for my class or my specializations. But at least I can vendor all of these for gold. Here the portable mini Callboard is very useful because now I don't need to travel to just deliver the quests. I also ended up accepting a batch of new ones in Silitus and just traveling there to complete them. And suddenly, just like that, because at maximum level we get so many more new quests from professions and from PvE content and also PvP, I'm already flooding myself again with these Callboard Caches. Only when you reach maximum level are you able to queue for specific dungeons instead of only having the random dungeon option. You are able to farm Marks of Triumph from the bosses regardless. I'm just not sure about the heroic dungeon spoils. One of the best things about queuing for specific dungeons is that you can farm specific things from specific mobs. But also, one of the greatest things from Ascension is that you can queue up for a random heroic, and you might get Tanaris but in heroic difficulty, and for me it's quite fun to actually do all the old content, bring some variety, doing all the lower level dungeons and not only the endgame ones. But dungeons like Stratholme and Shalomance might come out ahead because they just have so many bosses, you get so many marks of triumph, and at the same time you can get the reputation tokens here in Stratholme. One of the things that you can do next is just head over to the Argentown Quartermasters. Delivering the Scourge Stones and getting the Argentown Valor tokens is very nice. But once again, one of the most positive sides about the Ascension community is that many times when people get reputation hours, they share them. Here you see me delivering all my Reputation Argentown Valor tokens right away when I'm in this party group, and this is one of the things. Sometimes donator players are your friends, they will end up sharing some of their benefits with you. So I never understand why people get mad at them. And as you can see, I'm a fresh level 60, again with another personal bank half full of Callboard Caches. And I still have plenty of Callboard quests to do. Another really nice thing to do is the seasonal event, the Headless Horseman dungeon. This dungeon will give you the loot-filled pumpkin, and when you open it you can get an item level of 61 from some random item. This can be sometimes better than heroic dungeon items. And of course, getting the pet and the mount can be also worth it for you. Some other things to do can be going to a specific place or zone to hunt down an elite mob or some specific mob for a missing Mystic Enchant. Now that we are better geared up at maximum level, it can be easier for us to farm some specific items for the main spec or the off specs. Or just going after some specific Worldforged item that you find that will be useful because of its stats, and that it can be hard to replace for a while until you get some heroic dungeon item. Here I ended up discovering this ranch when I was traveling quite far to the wetlands. It is really nice to see the attention to detail and all the little things that the Ascension developers put in the game. And having a ranch of dwarven rams here fits the theme really well. Everything fits in the right place and everything looks the part. And here you can see I farmed again 70 Callboard Caches. More 70 to open. Now itemization will be a lot of work and it will take me a couple of hours looking at items and just looking at the stats, trying to figure out my priority stats for Protection Warrior and doing mismatching, trying to find the best items for it. Also at the same time I'm going to start saving some items for my off-spec because there are just so many good items that I don't want them to go to waste. And I always wanted to play more than one spec anyway. And after a week of being max level, I think this Callboard Cache process has happened at least more than 300 times. So it just keeps happening, you just keep farming this. And I've lost count of the amount of items that I've just gotten and the ones that I've also sold. And of course, now that you are ready, last but not least, one of the things to keep in mind is that you can go kill world bosses. You can pug a group of people or just go with your guild and fight these massive monsters. There have been already 2 world bosses released by today, and if you have well-geared groups with coordinated people, it should not be too difficult. These bosses are not too difficult with some basic mechanics. And never forget to loot the treasures of Azeroth from the corpse of the boss. Right now I was not too impressed with the items that drop, but my luck might change later on, I don't know. I hope you guys have been enjoying your adventures here in Warcraft Reborn from Project Ascension, both on Bronzebeard or Malfurion realms. Both realms seem to be having a lot of population and they seem to be quite stable. I've heard rumors that Bronzebeard has been target of DDoS attacks where they try to lag the server, but Malfurion has been the most stable by far. These were just my first quick impressions upon reaching maximum level, because these past few weeks have been very hectic and I've only played like 3 or 4 days out of the week every week. Leave your first impressions in the comments down below, tell me what you think of reaching maximum level and what are the things that you are currently doing as a maximum level character here. Don't forget to like and subscribe the video, that really helps a lot with the algorithm, especially if you want to see more of this content. You are very welcome to subscribe. Thank you for watching my videos and checking out my channel. Have a great day and see you in Warcraft Reborn.